Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another special episode of Courage Talks. Special guest today is Megan Eckert. She's a ultra runner. She's got multiple records in long distance running, and it's an awesome pleasure to have you on the podcast, Megan.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
The topic is Courage Talks. The topic of courage, the background story is my book, Against All Odds, where I wrote my father's biography, where I narrate a lot of instances of courage that he displayed in his life. What does courage mean to you?
Courage means trying those things that we are possibly afraid of, that I'm possibly afraid of, that I could possibly fail at. It means stepping outside a little bit of your comfort zone and pursuing something new.
Any role models for courage? Who do you look up to as an example of courage in your personal life?
In my personal life, there's been a bunch of people in my life who have shown courage. I immediately think of actually one of my teachers from high school who was very courageous in the way he pursued life and the activities he pursued and how he interacted with the world.
So a lot of us know you from what you are today and all your achievement, but not many people might know about your growing up days, your childhood, your background story. So why don't you just take us down memory lane? Where did you grow up? How was childhood like? Do you have any instances of childhood which still stay with you as dear memories?
I grew up in Houston, Texas. It was a wonderful place to grow up. Extremely humid, very hot, surrounded by a lot of people. And my family was very encouraging. They wanted me to try new things. So as a child, I got to explore many different sports, many different activities, got into music, art, theater for a very short period. I got to do quite a bit of things growing up, and my family was really supportive of everything that I tried.
Very interesting. Does your family have any running genes? Anyone you can say, oh yeah, because of him or because of her, I became a runner?
No, my family does not. Ironically, we are on my father's side. We have some swimmers and we have some speed skaters, but not running.
Swimming, is that hinting towards a potential future in triathlons for you?
Oh, absolutely not. I can't swim. I did not get any of the swimming
Are you
genes at all.
serious? No, you don't know how to swim?
I could survive if I fell off a boat. That's about it.
So yeah, I mean, my story is that I started running in 2013, and by 2017, I had kind of got bored with just doing marathons, and the question was whether I go the ultra way or I go the tri way. And I appeared for a Olympic triathlon, and I really loved the whole idea of combining three sports. So I was like, okay, for me, triathlon is the thing. Of course, I've done a 50K and a 56K. And last 3 months, a lot of people have been putting pressure to go for comrades. But yeah, I mean, I found the whole mix of three sports to be a bigger charm than just running ultra. But to each one its own, I would say.
Well, to train for a triathlon is just super intense, right? You're training for three different disciplines. No, I had that goal for a little bit. And then when I started training for the swimming, honestly, I just didn't enjoy it and just couldn't get it down. So I said, you know what? I think I'll stick to running. I'm good with that.
And you're not good. You're exceptionally good, I would say. I know. So the background story is, I think in 2016 is when you picked up running, and you had a background of, hard to believe today, unhealthy eating. Was it you?
Well, unhealthy habits in general, a lot of spending time in bars and then just unhealthy eating. It was a combo of just an unhealthy lifestyle, staying up too late, getting up early, trying to make it to work, not getting enough sleep, all of the things that as an athlete you feel when you start going that route. Yeah. And so I found little things start to change.
Interesting. That makes sense. And now when you have got out of that unhealthy zone, and when you see people still struggling, tell me, I mean, you said you coach as well. So is it easy to convince people to get out of that rut, or you find it still difficult to convince people? Despite all the...
It's difficult to convince people. Yeah, it's very difficult to convince people because they have to personally want it. It has to be an individual decision. I found for me that in that lifestyle, it was very comfortable to make poor choices. It just was what I was doing. And no matter what anybody told me, nothing was going to change because it's it's not going to be that bad for me, right? It's not going
Yeah.
to, I won't go that far sort of feeling or thought process. And so for me, it had to be a very individual, very personal decision. And it had to be,
Hmm.
it couldn't, I had tried like just it done, cold turkey, stop it here. And
Uh-huh.
it was a gradual process when I really did finally make the change to a healthier lifestyle. It wasn't instant.
But you still have your cheat days nowadays, or it's like a very strict diet that you follow?
Oh, I don't follow a very strict diet. I am more balanced in what I'm choosing to eat and how it's going to affect my body when I'm training and when
Okay.
I'm pursuing these goals.
Yeah. No, it reminds me the other day when me and my friend had gone out to a restaurant, and it had both healthy menu and unhealthy menu. And he chose healthy stuff. And when I was looking at the healthy menu, he said, "Hetal, you for of all can choose to eat unhealthy because you're gonna burn it out." I'm like, yeah, that's true, but it's just that my mind has kind of disoriented, and by default it picks up the more healthy option because it will require less energy to burn.
No, I'm still going to grab a chocolate chip cookie
Chocolates are, of course. The chocolate is healthy.
it is.
In fact, dark chocolate is
I'm,
supposed to have a lot of benefits.
yes, entirely. See, so everything in moderation.
That's true. That makes sense. So, staying on the medical part, you had what diagnosis of ADD in your 20s? Did it have importance later on when you started ultra running? Has it turned out to be some kind of an advantage for you, or just walk us through in terms of how did you handle that?
I think for me, the nice thing about running is I found that it quieted my mind and I
Hmm.
was able to think through my thoughts and kind of problem solve. Initially, before I found running, I was very much more scattered brained, had difficult time thinking through things. And running was really the only time where the mind was quiet
Hmm.
and I was able to really process. And so I
Okay.
think initially it was a tool for me. Running was a tool to kind of
Hmm.
think through.
A lot of people describe running as meditation. Have you felt the meditative aspect of running?
I have, because it's running is very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple, and it's really one foot in front of the other, and you get in this rhythm. Or if it's not a rhythm and you're on trail, you're seeing the views, and it becomes very meditative.
And you describe ultra running as multidimensional. I think the focus towards it's just not clocking the miles. It's nutrition, it's strength training. Describe, how did this philosophy evolve? I mean, what was initially ultra running like for you initially days, and has your appeal or definition of ultra running changed over a period of time?
Yeah, so initially, I mean, ultra running was just running and choosing to eat healthier, right?
Yeah,
Like it was those
yeah,
two things. And
yeah.
then as I started pursuing longer distances and I started looking to go a little further and get a little stronger, I realized, oh, I have all these little weaknesses, or I'm lacking this mobility, or I'm not as quick on my feet when I'm going uphill. Or so there were all these little aspects as I've dove into ultra running that I've found, oh, I need to work on this. So strength training, mobility, plyos, even hydration.
Hmm.
Who knew you had to work on hydration? That's something, your sweat, your salt intake, so on, has been something that recently I've focused on over the past year.
Hmm.
So all of those play a role in how you perform in your training run or in your race.
Right. So the missing aspect here, Megan, is sleep. And
Yeah.
especially when you do these multi-day runs, I mean, and I'll be honest, okay, I religiously track my sleep. And if I have a even if I have a 1 hour workout in the morning, my sleep is deciding whether that workout goes well or not. And you're like running like for hours in a day. How do you deprioritize sleep and still become a great ultra runner? What's the magic there?
I'm getting 8 to 9 hours a night when I'm not racing. I mean,
Okay.
my sleep is my priority when I'm not racing. That's where your body recovers, that's where it
Yeah.
restores itself and it gets ready for the next training run. When I'm racing and I'm out there and I'm doing multi-day races and I'm up on my feet for a long time, that's going to be very impactful. It is not only sleep deprivation, but you also go into mental state that are altered. You're putting a lot of emotional into
Mm-hmm.
this race. And so there's nothing you can do about it at that time. But post race is when I find that I need more sleep. That's more important than actual training at that point.
So it's an interesting, and I've never asked this question to anyone, right? I mean, a normal 9 to 6 corporate guy, right? He works for one day. He has to do a nighter, all nighter. He works all night. And next day morning, if his boss says, no, you need to work for even an hour more, probably he will collapse or he will hallucinate, or, he'll need some dose of glucose or oxygen for him to even sit. At the same time, in a similar scenario, an ultra runner is like running multiple days, right? So, how is our body able to adapt to multi day running with little or literally very little sleep when you can't do multi day walking without enough sleep? So, how is that working out? Have you given a thought to it? What's your perspective on that?
I think that's kind of it's a twofold thing. That's where experience comes in. A lot of times when people are working the extra hours, it's not a consistent thing. They don't really
Yeah.
want to be there. But when you're doing a multi-day race and you're up for that amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
you normally build up to those multi-day races. So you have
Okay.
the experience of maybe doing an overnight. And then you also have this desire to be there. And that desire has to override the
Yeah.
feeling of I want to go to sleep or
Yeah.
this is exhausting, because when the passion's there behind it, it is quite amazing what the human body can push through. So
Got
I
it.
think it has to do with like that super strength, those stories you'll hear of people rescuing someone from a burning building or something,
Yeah.
or lifting a
Yeah.
car. It's
Right.
that sort of feeling where it's like you're really passionate about it. And so it does give you that extra strength.
It reminds me, and I think the good point that you raised, right? I mean, people who have a night shift, or pilots or flight stewards, right? I mean, they work over their schedule over a period of time, right? I mean, they don't become pilots overnight that they can fly for 16 hours transatlantic and feel okay. I know this pilot friend of mine who's like, no, 8 o'clock in the evening, I have to be in bed. I'm like, 8 o'clock, who goes to bed? I have to catch my sleep, right? I think the underlying word here, Megan, is discipline. Once you have set yourself a goal, you will do whatever it takes to be able to do that job well. And I think that goes back to the previous point about diet control. I mean, find that why, right? Why are you doing this, right? And what do you want to get out of it? I think that probably could be a good drive for people to become strong enough to be able to sustain even in lack of sleep, whether it's work or whether it's ultra running.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drive is a great word to describe that.
Your first experience of ultra running, I believe, was as a volunteer when you observed other people running. Did you really idealize someone? Did you want to get in because you thought it's easy, or you wanted to get in because you thought it's very difficult and you wanted to challenge yourself? Which version was the true?
Definitely the second one. I knew it was going to be hard because the first race that I volunteered at, the first trail race I was ever at, the course was long.
Okay.
And so the runners are
Tell us
coming
a bit
through the
about the
aid
race. Yeah.
station. It's supposed to
Hmm.
be 100K. And I
Okay.
think version wise, it would have been about 115K instead
Okay.
of 100K. So they're
Yeah.
coming through on their second loop. They have 3 loops and they're going, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long course. But yet they're so positive about it.
Yeah.
And so that was my first kind of draw into I might want to pursue longer distances.
And you did the same one first, or was that the first ultra? No.
No, that was not the first ultra. The first ultra was a different one. I picked a night race actually for my
Okay.
first ultra.
And how much was the distance and how did it go?
It was a 60K. It started at 8 p.m. and it was in the middle of a hurricane, so that it was everything challenging, and we were on the outskirts, so we got just quite a bit of rain, which made the course sloppy and mucky and puddles, and
Yeah.
but it was everything you would expect your first ultra to be.
So first ultras are always special. They are even special even if you have had a tough time, or they're special only because they were the first.
Your first ultra is special. It's gonna be
Always special.
special. I think so. It's just like the first time you pursue a new distance, you kind of hold that first race close.
Yeah, I remember the first full marathon I did. Not a great time of 5:05, But I don't think I can ever get that feeling in a marathon again, right? Once you
Yeah.
touch the finish line for the first time and you know, okay, you have that ability to run 42.2, you do whatever you want. You have run Boston, you go to Tokyo, Berlin, London, doesn't matter, right? That first one will stay there as the special one, I guess.
Yes. Yes, I
True.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
something about the unknown of that first
Yeah.
ultra or the
That's true.
first distance. There's
Yeah.
something about, I don't know if I can do this. Even I ran a half before I ran my first 5K. I think it was probably, 7 months later that I ran my first 5K. And
Yeah.
I was scared to toe that 5K line because it's a fast race. Like
Yeah.
you go off the line and you just hold that pace the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so finishing that, I still remember my first 5K, even though I had done longer distance prior to that.
Yeah, I'm same here. For me, the first ever competitive run was a half marathon. I had not even practiced a 5K or a 10K. I mean, obviously, I practiced for that half marathon. But then I was like, okay, I don't want to do a 10K. How boring a 10K is, seriously. That's true. So there are two runs which I want to understand from a juxtaposing perspective, putting side to side. The first time when you broke the 6-day women's record by an astonishing 40 miles, and the backyard ultra, right? I think both of them have an element of discovery because there is no deadline that you need to get to this distance. It's basically discovering your potential in terms of how much you want to run. In either of them or both of them, did you really surprise yourself by how much you ran?
In both of them, yes.
Mhm.
Honestly, in both of them. I mean, I had huge goals for both of them going in, but you never know what you're able to do until you get out there and try.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so for both of them, there was an element of surprise, especially my first backyard and my first 6 day. I can remember those. And my first backyard I was going out to experience a backyard. I didn't think I was going to end up winning. I just wanted that experience. And suddenly we're going into like day two. I'm going, I still feel pretty good. Like my legs aren't too bad. My mind's not bad. Everything's still in it. I'm like, maybe I can win this thing, So it definitely was for both races. There was an element of surprise.
so one thing which is very typical about ultra running and running in general is that you know your body the best. And I think what you just shared is that, inside you knew what you were going for and you knew how much energy it required and the fact that you had it, right? But looking at the profession that you're in, right, as a special education teacher or as a coach, where you're training other runners and some of them might be much younger than you, might be coming from a completely different background. You might not know really their history or anything that can substantiate their capabilities, right? I mean, you're just looking at the person right in front of you. How do you judge their capabilities? And are you really good at that? Does it take time for you to understand the person? Do you go by gut? Are you a numbers person? Do you ask for a lot of data to test out their capabilities? Do you look at their Garmin data to make an assessment whether they're ready? I mean, how does it all work out for you?
So first off, I think a coach and an athlete need to have an honest working relationship. In other words, the athlete needs to be transparent with the coach. The coach needs to ask the questions, right? Initially, you start working with an athlete and you're saying, hey, what is your background? What is your experience? Because if you're starting with a new runner, I still remember what it was like to be a new runner. Like I remember those steps. I remember the first time I ran a 5 mile or a 12 mile, or I remember the first time, honestly, I ran a mile without stopping. Like I remember those little steps. So I think first off, it's asking those questions. Where are you at? What's your experience? And then asking them questions. Where do you want to go? What are your
Mhm.
goals? What are you
Yeah.
passionate about? What are you pursuing? And then from there, you develop this plan to get
Mhm.
from A to B. And
Yeah.
for me, I ask my athletes, hey, if you're doing this workout, I want you to analyze how you are feeling in this workout. Does it feel hard even though it's supposed to be an easy workout? Is it feeling too easy even though it's supposed to be a hard workout? Are your legs heavy? Did you get enough sleep last night? We look at what are you eating? We look at all these different dimensions
Yeah.
to running that affect progress. So it's really a working back and forth relationship between the coach and the athlete. And that's
Hmm.
why it's so important to find a coach that you connect with
No,
and
I
an
think
athlete
you
that you connect with, right? It goes back and forth.
of course, true. I think the right word you picked up was honesty, and it resonates with me as well because I just started my Ironman coaching with a new coach, and he completely disregards what I share on my Garmin data. The first thing that asks, and he tries to ask me as soon as I finish the activity. Within 15 minutes of me messaging, okay, how was it? And he just wants one word, two words. He doesn't want me to a long description. But the first thing which comes to my mind after having finished the activity, I think that captures the real feeling going inside. And I think that's enough, right? That says a lot, right? I mean, you came out with, wow, tired. Okay, you got it, right? You got the limit there as well. Touching upon something which I just touched, right? When you did the 600 miles in 6 days, I mean, sleep deprivation is something that we just discussed. Nutrition or what you eat during the run, and it correlates with the previous guest who did the Spartathlon, and for him being a vegetarian during the run, he was anyway deprived of a lot of other options, and he was limiting himself to some variety of rice he mentioned, which didn't work well with his tummy, and he kept on vomiting all the way till the finish line. And he described when he looked at the mirror when he finished the race, went to the hotel, he was like, I could see my ribs, and I felt sorry for myself, right? It literally felt like, and I'm a very small person, right? I'm not an ultra runner, but I get bored eating gels even in a full marathon and in whatever the other stuff, right? So beyond a point, you just lose charm of putting food in your mouth, right? Of course, you might have to at your level, you would. How does that work out for you? How's your journey with nutrition during the runs been? And can you somehow relate it with Marshall Ulrich's Running on Empty, which literally talks about literally not having anything inside and you still keep running?
So yeah, it's been a progress for me to figure out what works nutritionally. I have for 6 days definitely did resort to more simple foods. You're right though. I mean, gels for 6 days, no way they're going to work. And I will fuel with gels, but they have to be sporadic in there. They can't be your primary source.
You have to mix up with something else. Yeah?
Exactly. And honestly, I think the last maybe 24 to 36 hours, it was really hard to get food down in general. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it was liquid calories, like, hey, I'm going to drink a Coke or a protein shake, or I'm going to go with a liquid calorie source. But initially, for a majority of the time, I was doing pasta, eggs, and turkey sandwiches. And then those would be my major meals. And then
Yeah.
as I was running around, then you're talking about the gels, the chews, the sports nutrition foods. So it's a
Yeah.
careful balance. I think what I see a lot of people do, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I see a lot of people go out and they say, okay, I'm going to fuel with gels until I can't fuel with gels anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll switch to doing real food. And I hear that all the time in an ultra. And from my experience, I don't think that's the best way to do that. I see a lot of GI issues from that. I see a lot of people have problems with their electrolytes if those aren't balanced right. What I highly suggest for my athletes to do is you go out, you're doing a 100-miler, let's say, or even a 6-day if that's your goal, whatever it is, you go out, you mix those gels in with some
Mm-hmm.
real food. So you go into the aid station, maybe grab a sandwich, and when you're
Yeah.
out on course, then you're taking in the gels, then you're taking in the chews. I think balancing it out leads to a lot less GI issues.
And have you phased out some food items over a period of time? You used to like it, but then you were like, okay, now I'm enough of it. Now I need to switch. Or is it that you stuck with something for all along?
I've had to phase a lot of food items out. I have a gluten intolerance, so I can't eat anything
Oh,
with
okay.
wheat, rye, barley, any of that. I get very, very sick, so I had to phase a lot of foods out. And then sometimes over time, there's stuff that I have, like gels I've used in the past that haven't worked, or food items that I've used that I've tried that worked initially but don't work now. So I do think nutrition is a constantly evolving process. It's never
Got
dead
it.
set in stone. It changes based
Yeah.
on the race.
Do you look out for new stuff in the expos? Are you totally averse to stuff which is coming up fresh? You would wait for it to be tried and tested. a lot of people say no new things in a race, right? So you stick with that philosophy?
I do. I try not to try anything new in a race. And also, if something's working for me, I'm not going to switch
Yeah.
it. I'm not going to replace it with anything. So right now, I'm lucky enough to say for the past 6 months, everything, probably a year, everything has been clicking. I got my gels down. I got my chews down. I know what real food I'm going to eat. So for the
Wow.
past about year, things have been stayed consistent. Now, that might change. But for now, no, I'm not picking up anything new.
And forget multi-day races. Even in an ultra, there's too much at stake, right? You would not want to leave anything for chance. That's
Right.
true. During your practice, you mentioned about practicing running at different times during the day. Now that's something very difficult for me because I'm like either a morning thing or sometimes I might run in the evening. But during the day, how does it gel with your work schedule, and has it really required a lot of effort? You or something that worked out easy for you?
I'm running 2 or 3 times a day. I run in the morning and I run in the afternoon for sure.
Okay.
I run back and forth to work. So I'm a run commuter.
What is the distance between home and work?
I can go as short as 2.5 miles. Sometimes it's up, on my way in, sometimes it's up to 5 or 6 miles.
So it's just for rhythm. It's not like a very long distance per se.
No,
Okay.
it's not a long run. Sometimes, I use it as my speed work to get in quick or something.
So one of the critical elements in ultra races is the crew, right? And you've been fortunate enough to have done events like the Badwater where you had a supporting crew. Do you want to walk us through any particular instance during Badwater where you were really in a bad shape and the crew supported, and something which stuck with you? Maybe the listeners might love to hear that.
Yeah, so at Badwater in particular, when you start Badwater, you start with a support crew. For those who are unfamiliar, you run the white line on the left-hand side and your crew leapfrogs about 2 to 3 miles, sometimes 4 or 5 ahead of you, pulls over, waits on you. You show up, they give you what you need, and then you keep running and they drive forward and meet you 3 or 4 miles in the future. And you do that for 135 miles. So in that race, the support crew is vital. The conditions are hot, it's windy, it's dry. Pretty much anything could happen out there. And so at Badwater, I started the race feeling very strong, but very quickly deteriorated into having GI issues. And I'm not sure if it was the mixture I had used, electrolytes, or if it just had to do with a possible, I think I might have glued myself the night before or the morning before the race. So I was having all sorts of stomach issues within 23 miles into the race.
Mm-hmm.
And so my support crew, of course, I'm having to keep running just to stay in my position. Even though it's early, you don't want to lose sight of where you're at in the field. So I'm having to keep running, but I'm having these GI issues. So in between, I guess as my crew was leapfrogging, they were trying to troubleshoot, like what food could we give her to solve this? What do we have in here? And
Yeah.
eventually, I can't even remember what it was, but about 20 miles later, they came up with the perfect formula of food and electrolyte, and they just got it all balanced, and my stomach settled and everything was fine the rest of the race. But I didn't have time to troubleshoot that. And of course, when you're out there running, sometimes you forget what you have available to you. And so the
Yeah.
support crew is vital in trying to troubleshoot the things that could come up in the middle of a race.
Who was your support crew?
So my husband was my crew chief. He usually is. And then my best friend was my pacer, and she also provided a crew, Bria. And then Manny and Karen out of San Antonio, they were on the support crew. Karen was the one who actually solved the stomach issues. But
Okay.
Manny had run Badwater a few years back.
Oh, okay.
And my husband and I and Karen had crewed him. And so
Wow.
when it came for
Sweet.
full circle
Sweet.
and I got the chance to run, we had them on the support crew because we just make such a great team.
And your husband's done a Badwater as well?
He is
Or is he
not.
planning?
No. I don't know.
You're not pushed him enough, I think. Or maybe
I
you're not
don't know
shown
if
him
he
the
will.
nicer version of Badwater. Maybe he's seen the bad version of it. He's like, no, no, no.
Salton Sea, maybe.
You mentioned somewhere you miss skipping running in your school days, and I can totally relate to that because my daughter refuses to run. She thinks running is boring. Like you, I also believe that, I should have run in younger days, but younger days we have far more important stuff like career and life and work as a focus area. Do you think that picking up running early can really help you to run longer? Or even if you started late, you could still be running in your 90s?
Yeah, I think even if you start late, you can be running in your 90s. I think if you start early, you can be running in your 90s. I think it's all about how well you listen to your body and how well you adapt.
The
It's
continuity,
about
right?
running smart.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a good point, right? I mean, how do you conserve yourself? Don't go crazy on all kinds of races, and make sure that
Mhm.
you're listening to your body, right? I think sometimes the body is giving hints, and it might not help as well. You just mentioned about recovery and listening to your body in terms of after the long races. So, do you specifically keep a gap between ultra races? What's the typical gap like? What's the minimum you have ever had between two races, and how did it turn out?
When I first started running, I was hooked really fast. So I was in the fall, the year after I started running, I did quite a few marathons on trail. Every other weekend, I would be out running one. But I wasn't running competitively at that time. I was running for fun. I allowed myself to rest during the week. And of course, initially, you see these big gains when you first start running. And it was exciting to me. And no, that was probably my closest races, like back to back to back, that would be like every other weekend. With these longer races, the closest I've come in the longer races is 3 weeks, which honestly was not enough to fully recover. I did go into the race and ended up having a fine race, but it was partially luck maybe, or I was very smart in the recovery in between, but it's not something I would recommend racing, you know, two big 200-mile races like back to back. It's not sustainable. It's not something I'm going to do all the time.
But you did a 100K immediately after a 6 day run or something like that? Habanero 100, was it? No.
Yeah, I did have an Aero 100 shortly after Badwater.
Okay.
So that one was in August, and Badwater was in July.
Okay. Yeah. So it's fairly close. Because many people, I think the very interesting quote, which I quote a lot, we are the easiest to fool and we fool ourselves all the time. Right. So, you want to do something, then you build up your reasons to justify why you are right. Even if it is contradicting what you yourself earlier would have said is not right, or what you would have advocated for other people. I mean, if it goes right, then you can claim that it was always meant to be that way, right?
But I do think it's really important to say, hey, this race I'm racing, and this race I'm just going to go out and have a good time. I'm not
Intensity.
racing every
Yeah.
single race. I only have, I'm going to show up at quite a few races this year,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
only have 3 big races throughout my season.
I think that's what we also do, right? We tone down the intensity and say, let's do a normal zone 2 running, right?
Yeah,
And a normal zone 2 running is really not adding more, fatigue to you,
right.
especially over a period of time. You can actually wade off the fatigue factor very quickly, right? That's true as well. You're in a sport which is still so-called male dominated. You think things are getting better? Are more and more women runners coming up, or you think there is still a lot effort needed to encourage more women to get into ultra running?
We're seeing the number of women grow, which is exciting. Last year, well, honestly, the past 3 years, you've just seen women win outright overall. You're seeing the numbers grow. You're seeing women race directors. So, yes, women are becoming more and more involved in the sport. There's still a long way to go. There's still things that need to change in the sport, inclusiveness in general,
Yeah.
but we're on the right path. People are talking about it. We're having forums about it. In general, just being inclusive. Everyone's invited.
You mentioned about ultra running teaching you patience and perseverance, right? And I think there was some instance of you feeling sleepy during a trail run. Was it in France way back? And just walk us through in terms of what happened, and how did you overcome that fear? And I'm sure it must have been quite scary, because I have one particular instance of another guest on the show, middle of the jungle, no lights, no GPS, and you're not too sure whether you're on the right track. How do you handle such moments, Megan?
I'm assuming that that was my very first time I was actually tired on a course, like really
Yeah.
tired. And I'm out in Colorado, nowhere near a city. So there's no real direction, so to speak. And the course is an out and back course. It's very cold. It's in September. It was one of their first cold weekends. And I got real tired. And cold will do that to you. Cold will make you tired. You're just using so much more energy to get it done. And I said, well, I think I'm gonna sit on this rock here on the side of the trail, and I'm gonna take a basically power nap. You put something between your hands, you let yourself drift off, and what happens is whatever item you're holding when you drift off drops, and it'll startle you awake, and then you'll keep going. Well, the one thing I didn't think of, yeah, it's a great thing. If you ever need to like take a quick nap, you don't have a pacer, you don't have somebody to wake you up. That's the way to do it. Just sit down, put something between your hands, and when it drops, it'll wake you up. Just make sure it's loud enough. You don't want a feather or something. But the one thing I didn't do, though, is I didn't put anything in the direction that I was going. So when I woke up, I was disoriented because I was on this out and back course, and I had forgotten which way I was on my last out and back, and I'd forgotten which way I was supposed to be going. And there was no lights. There's nothing out there other than you. And so I started walking one direction, and I started thinking, well, maybe I've seen all this before. It started feeling like I had seen it. And I said, well, I'm going to have to make a decision here, because if I can keep running until I run into someone and figure out which way they're going, ask them, hey, are you going back to the start or are you going out? Or I can trust my instincts and say, okay, this is the wrong direction. Let's turn around and go back. So I ended up making the decision to turn around because it didn't feel right. And it was the right decision, but that could have gone wrong so fast. So I learned, like, you put something next to you in the direction that you're headed before you go to sleep. So that way, when you wake up, you know which way to go.
You know which direction also to go.
Yes.
You should be making a booklet of all these things, Megan. I don't know. Do you have it already?
I don't, but there's all these little things, little experiences you learn on the trail, right? Things you wouldn't know unless you got out there.
No, the reason I was laughing when you were describing it, because exactly the same story was described by another guest. He took a 4-hour nap in a 16-hour run, and he still finished it. But once you're not racing for time, no, all these ultra races are created in such a way that they really allow you enough time. And at least the ones on my side of the world are like that. So that's also there.
And that's what's nice about the Ultra is you can race them how you want to race them. You can run them how you want to run them. There is that cushion in there.
So something about the multi-day races, and you have hundreds of Megans, but it'll still be less. The real champions are the organizers, the volunteers, the people who are setting up these races. And you always have less number of people to support. Do you think the whole community of people who organize such multi-day races is still not large enough? There's more work to be done. What's your perspective on that? I mean, do you think it can be sustained as a growing sport like marathons are today?
I think so. I mean, yeah. I think so. I think a lot of it goes back to the runners too, giving back, turning around and saying, hey, I ran a race. Now I'm going to volunteer. Or I'm going to help with setup, or I'm going to, honestly, I, as a runner, have learned so much from volunteering. And I think that has to do with my first race. My first race experience was volunteer, not racing. So watching people coming in and doing what they're doing to get back out there on course, I've learned so much just from volunteering on a runner perspective, but also you need the volunteers in order to put on the race, and you need the support to put on the race, the medical, the race directors, the course sweepers, and the course markers. You need all those people to make it happen. And I think as people who partake in the sport, it's also good if we're able to give back to it.
So drive yourself however much you want. You know yourself. But when you see one of your students succeed, the feeling is very different, right? So you want to describe someone whom you have coached or guided, and someone who had a tough goal and he or she achieved it. Just walk us through in terms of that experience. Like,
Biggest thing I try to encourage, whether it be a student, whether it be one of my student athletes, whether it be one of my adult athletes, is to set your goals high. Like, pursue those things that you think might be impossible if you really want to. And then it doesn't mean that you have to know how to get there. You just want to get there. And that desire is enough to start asking questions. It's enough to start saying, hey, if I'm here now, how do I get to here? Who are the people in my life who can influence me in a positive way so I can reach these goals?
mhm.
And I've seen it in my classroom where the kids have asked questions, the best questions to me, they've asked questions around the school, the best questions to their parents, because they want to understand some concept. They want to be able to do something. I've seen it with some of my student athletes where they are pursuing the long jump and they want to get that, inch more or whatever just to make state. And
Yeah,
they start doing the research, they start watching the videos, they start asking the questions, and watching the process is more important than the result. Because what happens in the process is you start to get that drive, that determination, that desire, and
yeah,
that drives the end result. So I
mm,
think the result is wonderful. We're always excited when we get the result we want,
yeah.
but we learn more in the process to get it.
Very true. Very
And I
true.
think that is like even more important to future endeavors than the actual result, the outcome, and reaching that goal.
Have you got emotional at end of a race or during a race? Any particular moment where you just could not hold your tears back, and what was it like?
I've had more than one race where I've become emotional at. There's always, or it seems to be frequently, that I am more emotional during than I am at the end, because
Okay.
you hit a beautiful switchback and you see a beautiful view, or you're flowing through this alpine field. So I'm more overcome with the emotion of being out there and doing it than I am with the finish.
That's so beautiful. I've never heard someone say that. I mean, in fact, Jenny was in the podcast earlier, and I asked her, I mean, do you want to stop by? She did that coast to coast, right? So I was like, would you want to stop by at a particular spot and say, why am I running? Why can't I just sit down and do a small picnic and just sit or relax? But the way you described it, the emotions that it brings about, and obviously these are positive emotions, and you earned yourself that right to be standing there at that particular point, because if it was not for that run, you would not have seen that particular spot ever in your life, right? Especially
Yes.
the way these routes are structured, you would not go like a layman, right? So that's very, very nicely put. I think that's got a very subtle and hidden meaning to it, and I think it might give me a hint to the answers that you might give for the rapid fire that I have for you. Road running or trail running?
Trail.
Single day, multi day?
Multi-day.
Favorite carb loading dinner?
Oh, that's rough. Hamburger. Got to get the protein in. I'm a multi-day runner. That's the way that works. The carb is coming from the bun, but yeah.
What do you look forward to the most at the end of a run? The medal or the food?
The people? Can I change that entirely? I
So
love.
sweet.
Okay,
So
I
sweet.
cannot. My husband gets so mad at me because I cannot leave the finish line. He doesn't get mad. He's like, "Don't you want to change? You smell bad," that sort of thing. And I'm like, I just want to hang out and I just want to talk to people. That's it. I just want to hear about
So
everybody
sweet.
else's
That's
race.
so
I
sweet.
want to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any instance where you actually got angry during the run, after the run, before the
Um, yes, yes.
Okay.
Actually, bad water. There was water that was like kind of hidden. And
Okay.
my crew had thought we were running out of water, and we were still like 13 miles from Lone Pine or something
Okay.
from our next water stop. So I had been pouring water on my head to keep myself cool. And they
Okay.
told me, hey, you're going to have to stop doing that because we're down to just water that we can drink. And
Oh,
I stormed off so mad for like, I must have been 2 to 4 miles. And then they're like, oh, never mind. We found the other gallons. We're good.
That's justified, Megan. I'm totally with you. Let me know if you want me to
No,
send your
normally
photos of this to the organizers. That's not fair.
normally I'm a very, very happy runner. I normally don't get angry at all, but that was the one time I was like, oh no, I'm gonna dehydrate in the middle of the desert.
Nice, nice, nice. What's coming up next for you?
So in just a couple weeks I'm headed out to New Zealand. I'm gonna do Northburn 100 miler. So that's my next big one. And then Cocodona 250 is
Okay.
my A
And what's
race
the
for the spring.
wonderful? What's the furthest you have traveled ever for running?
France was the furthest I've ever traveled when I went
Okay.
in last April. Yeah. But I think
So
New
you can
Zealand will take that over mileage wise. I think that's further.
and then you can plan something in India because that would beat New Zealand as well.
Yes.
When I asked Jenny about it, she was like, "My race duration should be more than my travel duration. That's a mandate." I said, "Yeah, that makes
That makes
sense."
sense. That makes
That's
a
true.
lot of sense.
No, it's been wonderful talking to you, Megan. I normally reserve a last question. I throw it open to you. What's the question you have for me?
What are you pursuing now and what are you most passionate about?
The good question. So I'm now preparing for my third Ironman, which is in Tallinn, Estonia, in on 22nd August. I had a DNF last year at Barcelona. Really stupid of me. I was not prepared well. So I'm like really looking forward to this one because I want to make amends for the mess that I did last year. And yeah, I think that's special. And I don't know if you know, but I'm looking forward to getting my PhD next month. That's something which I've been working towards on the side.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm doing my PhD in entrepreneurship, and the secret record I'm kind of looking at is completing 3 Ironmans while doing PhD.
That's an incredible goal.
Yeah,
That is a lot.
I don't know if there is a record in Guinness Book which I could put my name into, but I'm just hope that that's something which works out well as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, one last question. Are you into reading a lot? Any books that you would recommend on running or otherwise?
Books on running. So actually, if anybody is interested in reading books, I have actually started on my Instagram. My goal is to
Okay.
read 52 books this year.
Oh,
So
awesome.
each time I read a book, I
Yeah.
add it to my stories and I add it to my
Okay.
52 books for the year. So if you're looking for a book recommendation, you just got to find me on Instagram. And my
Yeah.
52 books are going to be listed there. I think I'm up to 9 now, baby. So I switch between audiobooks and
Yeah.
paperback. So currently my paperback book is Run with the Romari, which is about the Copper Canyons tribe, the Tarahumara down in Mexico.
Okay.
So
Okay.
very good book, just released. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. No, I think we're gonna be good Insta buddies as well because I read 100 books every year. I don't want to embarrass you, but there's some very few things which I can embarrass you on. I finished 9 books in February itself.
Well, that's good. I wish I had all the time to escape in books,
I know.
but
No, but like you, I'm heavy on audiobooks because, all these runs and walks and drives, the headphone is on and you just can finish a lot of books. But I'll shoot across some recommendations to you on Insta as well.
perfect. Sounds great.
Thank you very much, Megan. I know this was long overdue, and sorry, I think there
Yeah.
was a couple of screw ups at my end as well, but totally worth the wait. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking, and all the best. And I just hope that within the next year or so, you do plan a trip to India, and we'll make sure that you have a run which is long enough, longer than your trip.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad we were able to
Thank
get
you.
this set up.
Awesome. Then, thank you very much. Bye bye.